insane YouTuber that he is. Yes, it is the Captain's Cast. I just realized that, like, I forgot to put on the loading screen. Thank God your captain was wearing pants today, because I just caught the very beginning of me setting up my stream. Well, fortunately, your captain is a professional. It always will be. Yes, it is time for the Captain's Cast with me, your host, Captain Garrett. I cannot believe the immune response of the media, the access media to Sound of Freedom. My dear sailors and star nuts, even I could not have predicted the sheer level. I mean, I could have, but I could not predict the sheer level of insanity. It should be the most uncontroversial film of our time, but we live in a tribalistic time. Tom says, I thought this was a no-pants vessel. No, that is against the uniform code on this vessel of entertainment, culture, all things sci-fi, fantasy, historical is the Swords and Starships Channel. I am your host, Captain Garrett. This is the Captain's Cast. The Thursday Captain's Cast is back on the menu. So please do hit like or subscribe. And we have got to talk about so much, my dear friends. We have been apart too long, we have. I have seen Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1. Mission Impossible 7, Dead Reckoning Part 1. That title is nothing if not succinct. And I will just tell you, this will be absolutely spoiler-free. I will not spoil anything. It's probably going to be difficult for me to talk about it because I want to keep it all under wraps because I want you to see it because it is fantastic. In fact, I am willing to say I think it is the best film of the year so far. It is certainly the best one your captain has seen, and I love it. And I have got to tell you, there is an analogous scene in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning that is a perfect analog to what I consider the worst action scene in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And it's remarkable. It's remarkable. There is a character archetype. There is a setup for the action scene. The action scene itself, all are it's just almost perfectly in line with the same type of scene. And yet in Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny, it is the worst, most boring, chaotic shit show. And in this film, it's delightful, it's funny, it's exciting, it's edge of your seat, and it just... Mission Impossible is everything. Listen to me when I tell you this. It is everything. Disney, Lucasfilm, the MCU, the DCU, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's everything those movies wish they were, is this movie. Haley Atwell is everything Phoebe Waller-Bridge desperately wishes she was, and Hollywood desperately wishes she was, and absolutely is not. And we're going to get into that. We are definitely going to talk about that, because I have... It was stunning to me. It was stunning. I was like, I'm watching this scene and I'm thinking, this is exactly what they wanted this scene to be. They wanted the tuk-tuk chase to be like this. And they're such bad filmmakers. Everyone loves James Mangold for some reason. Well, if this film is any indication, he is a shit filmmaker. And you know something? His whining in the media has not disabused me of that opinion. These filmmakers in Indiana Jones 5, they just went to school. Tom Cruise and the rest of the team over there at Mission Impossible just took him to school and just said, hey, here is how you make a summer blockbuster. And they make it look easy. They make it look easy with these films, and it is most certainly not. And I did also happen to see The Walking Dead just on a lark. I'm kind of done with Walking Dead, and yet, the trailer for Walking Dead Dead City did sort of interest me. And I thought, well, let's give it a shot. It mostly had to do with the fact that I love, wait, is it Henry Dean Morgan? I might have that name slightly. It's I think it's Henry Dean Morgan plays Negan. And I love that actor, I love that character, and I love his performance of that character. And for that reason, I thought, I'll give it a shot. And so I'll give you my thoughts on it. Was it good? Was it terrible? Is it worth a watch? You'll just have to see. You'll have to see how many bars and the epaulets the captain is willing to give it. And then we'll take a look at the Ahsoka trailer. Do you want to see the Ahsoka trailer? Are you excited about that? MA will just talk a little bit more about the weird, and I mean weird, immune response that the media system has deployed against the sound of freedom. I am quite, I don't like tribalism as a rule in humanity. However, I am willing to pick my side on this one. I can tell you that much. So, well, let's just get right into it, shall we? All right. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Well, I could just tell you this film is absolutely exceptional. It is everything I have wanted in a summer blockbuster since John Wick 4, quite frankly. And I would even say I've got to see it probably 2 or 3 more times. That being said, if I were to rate it in the series, I would still say Mission Impossible Fallout, the 6th installment, is still absolutely my favorite. It's absolute. I don't know what it is about Fallout, but that was lightning in a bottle. Just the story, the tone, the characters, the pace, everything about Fallout is fantastic. I love the musical score by Lorne Balfe in Fallout, and it was just there's nothing like it. So I would say Fallout is still the best in the series, but Dead Reckoning also has the fact that it is a first half of the story, kind of working against it a little bit, whereas Fallout is sort of a complete story. That being said, Tom, the captain will allow you to interrupt to say, I know it's wrong, but I'm excited by the Ahsoka trailer. Shrug. All right. All right, Tom. Good. I'm glad. You know what? I actually haven't seen it all the way through. So I'm going to be fair. I'm going to be fair and open-minded. There is no shaming on this channel for liking what you like. None at all. But we might disagree. We'll see. Look, Tom, it's just the reality is this, okay? Disney, they have an incurable disease. It's not going to get any better. Doesn't matter how many, we can give them the benefit of the doubt over and over and over. It's how much you want to bet that like 2 episodes of Ahsoka are just the Mandalorian and Grogu. What wouldn't that just be great? That just like for no reason. It's just and now let's check in with Grogu. Oh my god. I just had a thought. That's a little out there, but like what if Grogu just shows up at Ahsoka? Would you put it past him? I sure wouldn't. So, yeah, all right, so Mission Impossible 7. So I'm watching this film and I'm thinking, this one had a tone that was different than any of the other ones. There was the villain. Oh, I got to be careful here. I don't want to like give away too. I think this is fair to say essentially the antagonist in the film is essentially AI. And it's brilliant. It's chilling. And I think the worst part about it is that I heard Elon Musk explaining to Joe Rogan recently in a clip, what his feelings are about AI and the dangers of it and what it would actually look like if AI took over. And I have to say, the writers of this film must have been listening to Elon because what they present in this movie is it's probably the most chilling idea of AI gone wrong since the Terminator, I personally think. I think it's one of the more chillingly too close to home kind of ideas. You get the feeling watching it, you're like, this is going to happen if it hasn't happened already, quite frankly. It's also, but also, the film is a hell of a lot of fun. Ethan Hunt. Ethan Hunt is such a great character, and let me tell you why. He is a true hero. And what I marvel at is right from the beginning, the film has a pretty, I would say dark. I would say a dark, menacing tone. Right? They have an opening scene that is setting up the danger in the film, and it is very menacing, and it starts building to an even more menacing degree when all of the top brass in the government are discussing what to do about the problem. There's a really exceptional action scene to kick it off, in a sandstorm. It's fantastic. And then there's always a caper in the beginning of a Mission Impossible film. And the caper, no matter how dark or dismal or dangerous the situation is, it often will end on a high note, which is what I kind of like about this. It's like it's always just a little bit fun. There's always a fun twist to it, and this film is no exception. So every action scene is excellent. The story, it's thought-provoking. It's thought-provoking. Imagine that. Like, when I left the theater, I was happy to like get into a discussion about what we just saw. I'm like, wow, this is going to happen someday with AI. So that was super cool. The famous stunt with Tom Cruise basically base jumping off of a cliff. I was, of course, pondering the whole movie. What's the setup and payoff for that going to be? There is a setup, there is a payoff. It's excellent. It's phenomenal. And it's not even the best set piece in the film. There's so many. The final set piece in the film is fantastic. I want to watch it 5 more times. It was so cool. And it's one of those, and this is what strikes me about it. I watch Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I watch Dial of Destiny. I watch The Flash. And there's just all this garbage, just the visual garbage constantly going by all the time. Oh, he's running through time and all the 3D figures are popping up and popping down. All the ants are coming over the hill to fight Kang, and I'm supposed to give a shit. And that's like the tuk-tuk chase. There's all this, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She's fleeing from her crazy boyfriend, but she's also fleeing from Harrison Ford, who's chasing her. And it's like, who cares? Who cares about any of this? It's junk. It's garbage. There's nothing happening. And I think what's incredible to me about every action scene in a Mission Impossible film tells its own little story. And it tells its own little story in surprising and unexpected ways. I think that when the writers are coming up with, or, the algorithm or ChatGPT or whatever the hell they use to write Marvel and Lucasfilm these days, whatever the devil the kids are using these days, when they're writing those films, I think they say, we need an action scene where Phoebe Waller-Bridge could be snarky and funny and witty, and there's some cars in it. And then they set out to go write a bunch of stuff about cars being, in a crowded market. I feel like with Mission Impossible, they get at this a different way. I think they say, what situation is Ethan Hunt in, and how can we throw obstacles in his way in an interesting location, an interesting place, and how would he work his way out of it? And then what would these other characters in the scene do to try and thwart him? And so, in a way, I think that they build the action scenes in a Mission Impossible film are sort of a character of their own, with a story, a backstory of their own. There's always some added layers setting everything up. And so you get a feeling when you're watching a Mission Impossible sequence that you're like at every turn, it's like another surprise is being unpacked for you. There's like, you think that, oh, this is a car chase scene. And naturally, we've seen a million car chase scenes, okay? We've seen a million of them. We've seen a million gunfights, but what I love about a Mission Impossible film is it starts with the sort of archetypal action scene of like, oh, we're in a car chase. And then it adds a layer to it. Oh, we're in a car chase, but we're handcuffed together. And he can't drive because his dominant hand is not the one that's handcuffed to hers. Or I think his dominant hand is handcuffed to hers, whatever. He winds up in the passenger seat. She's in the driver's seat. She can't drive, but he needs her to drive. Like, so then that adds a layer to it. And it's like, okay, how are they going to escape the situation when he can't drive? And clearly he's the one that's got to do it. And then they say, oh, but they add another layer to it, which is there's too many people chasing them and they have to ditch their car and get a different car. But what if it's the wrong type of car? And it just keeps building. And I'm being deliberately vague here because I don't want to give away too much. Here's what's amazing about it. The scenes, the stakes in the scenes are absolutely dead serious. There is a real crisis. There is a villain that is going to do something really terrible, and the whole world is at stake, and it is deadly serious. And at the same time, the circumstances of the chase are such that it's also kind of funny. It's also funny to watch Ethan Hunt trying to, like, he's handcuffed in such a way that he can't drive the car. So how does he teach someone who doesn't know how to drive a car on the fly how to escape from 3 different pursuers? There's something hilarious and naturally funny about that, but it doesn't undermine the character. It doesn't undermine the scene. It feels organic and it feels natural. You wouldn't believe how much the audience was laughing in this movie, but not at the film. They're laughing with the film. They're laughing with the characters while they're rooting for the characters. Now, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, when they do this, it is always to undermine the characters. The jokes are always at the expense. If we're laughing at Ant-Man, we're laughing at what an idiot dad he is. If we're laughing at Thor, we're laughing at how stilted and stupid we're laughing at his beer gut if you go to Avengers Endgame. We're laughing at how pathetic he is for not being able to get over Jane Foster. If we are laughing at Indiana Jones, we're laughing at... I'm trying to think of an example. That movie is so forgettable. We're laughing at what an angry, saddled man. You turn down your music. That's what we're laughing at. In Mission Impossible, we're laughing at how Ethan Hunt, this brilliant, excellent spy who can pretty much survive just about anything, he's got a plan for almost anything, suddenly finds himself in a situation that is, as the title implies, impossible. And we're laughing at that. We're laughing at, man, what a pickle he's in. How's he going to get out of this? And then we're laughing at sort of the silly things that happen as he's trying to work his way out of it. Many of them actually turn out working to his benefit. Fu Man Blue is in the chat. Hey, Fu Man Blue. Hey, I sent a reply to your email, Fu Man Blue. So, stay in touch. I'm going to follow up with you. So check your email. And it's good to see you. I missed you on the last stream. The Thursday stream is back. You, my dear audience, have asked for it. And so I am working hard to keep that content coming. And if you're just joining us, we're talking about my spoiler-free review of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, the 7th installment in the series, and the greatest film so far of the year. It is everything Indiana Jones wishes it was. It's everything The Flash wishes it was. It is amazing to watch. It's like, wow, the adults are back in town. The adults are back in the room. Let me explain a couple things about Mission Impossible. The women are hot. They're hot. They're sexy and they know it. They use it. It's beautiful. The men are confident. They are skilled. They are competent. They have charming and witty banter, the men and the women in these films. They rib each other, but it's never undermining. It's never one undermining the other. It's a give and a take. It's a repartee. A repartee, if you will. The action sequences have a story that they are telling, and the story takes you on twists and turns you did not expect. The final I don't even want to say almost anything about it because I want it to be a total surprise for you. But the final set piece in this film involving the train, it is just, it tells a story that is so layered as you go through this action sequence. Every moment of this action sequence, you're a little more delighted. I have to tell you, I loved it. I want to watch it again because it's like you miss things. It's every scene is like that in this. Every character has a story. The plot is impeccable. I will say probably I said Fallout is my favorite because this film actually is kind of the most like the first one, I actually think. The first film had a lot of the actual, who's backstabbing who kind of storyline going on. This film actually comes back to a lot of that, a lot of the roots of the franchise without sacrificing what it's gotten really damn good at, which is highly compelling action sequences, and every single action scene has stakes. Everything that happens in this, even when there's CGI, I definitely detect CGI when it's there, but it always feels like it's in the background. It always feels like the best parts of the action scene are real. The best parts of it, what Tom Cruise is doing, what Haley Atwell is doing, those parts of the action scenes are real and they feel real, and you can feel it in your stomach in some of these scenes. I went with a family member, and they were literally, their arms were going, they're like this in their seat, just like reaching, and like, God, keep stay in your seat, please. Like, I know it's exciting, but honestly, personal space. Hello, Captain's chair must not be infringed upon. We hold these truths to be self-evident. What else? I never, if there was volume used in this film, I would be surprised. But if there was volume in this film, I could not detect it. The villain, oh yes, how could I forget? How can I forget? This was, director is Christopher McQuarrie. Wow, what a great job. Writers, Bruce Geller, Eric Jendrison, Christopher McQuarrie, writers on the film. They should reach out to Jeff Loveness and explain to him what a good script is. They should reach out to James Mangold and explain to him what a good script is. Do you know how to write a plot? This plot has so many twists and turns, and necessarily it has exposition in the story. They're in dialogue, and I have to say the exposition through dialogue, there are times where it's pushing it. It's definitely pushing it at one or 2 points, but it's just shy of turning leaden, because every exposition is delivered as an opportunity for the characters to kind of chew up the scenery. And so you have the villain played by, he was in why is that? Ozark. He was in Ozark. He's excellent. Isai Morales plays Gabriel. He is such an excellent rival for, here we go. He is just such an excellent rival for Ethan Hunt. His physicality and action scenes are absolutely excellent. And whenever it's his opportunity to kind of explain, the exposition, he does it as just a great kind of James Bond villain monologue. Where is the, let's get the trailer. I know I'm going to be risking copyright claim here, but I'll just a couple of seconds at a time. I won't overdo it. The women in this, Rebecca Ferguson, who plays Ilsa, Haley Atwell, who plays, her name is escaping me at the moment. I need to see this movie minimum 3 more times. Grace, that's right. Haley Atwell, who plays Grace in this. Okay, we're going to get into the comparison between Indiana Jones and this film, because there is like a 1-to-1, and you have just got to see it. But let's see, Mission Impossible 7 trailer. Here we go. Now, this is probably not the one I'm looking for. but we'll give it a shot. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Fu Man Blue.
Oh my god.
That's not the one I want. I don't want that one. Fu Man Blue says, I think Mom finished the second book. Said she liked it. Referring to your humble captain's book, Blood and Oak. And thank you. Awesome. I'm happy to hear it. Happy to hear it. And let me know. Let me know what you think, Fu Man Blue, if you decide to pick it up. If you decide to pick it up. So this would be, I think this would be the one we want.
Our lives are the sum of our choices.
All right, I gotta pause it there because I don't want to get the copyright claim. Man, like, Kittredge in this is fantastic because if you remember the first film, this is old, this is deep lore for Mission Impossible. The first film, Kittredge was a major player, and he's back, and he's excellent. He is excellent in this movie.
Cost you.
Here we go.
Dearly. It's gonna cost you dearly.
Yes. And then let me find, if I can, just a clip of the villain Gabriel, once again played by Isai Morales.
It's been a long time, friend. You've no idea the power I represent.
This scene in the film, by the way, is fantastic. And this is what I mean. So that clip of dialogue is from essentially a scene where there's a lot of exposition. It's done so well. It's done to, and, you know, there's the other thing about this film. It always shows you something new. It shows you a place you've never been. There is style. There is, like, the color, the framing of every scene is done to present, you know, a certain feeling, a certain, you know, in snooty film circles, we call it mise-en-scène. The mise-en-scène is absolutely phenomenal. What does mise-en-scène mean? Well, if you don't know, you're not smart enough. No, I'm just kidding. It basically means the overall feeling and vibe of a scene, taking into account the performances, the visuals, the sound, the music. And this is what Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny has none of. None of. It's visual vomit is Indiana Jones. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I want to throw in there just for fun. You know, they don't actually show much of Hayley Atwell in the trailer. She is phenomenal. I can't even, you know, to be honest, I was hearing a lot about her, and I was thinking, okay, fine. Dude, this guy is excellent. He plays a spy who's chasing Ethan Hunt.
After you.
He's freaking great. Let me grab the name of the actor for you. That would be... Oh, dude, Cary Elwes is in this. I totally forgot. Yeah, Cary Elwes is in this, and he's excellent. Where... I'm not seeing him. Your captain should have reviewed the IMDb page. Anyhow, he's excellent. Who else we got? Try to find Hayley here.
What's your ultimate objective?
Dude, that scene, excellent.
Your life.
Okay, so I think, if I'm not mistaken, that actress who's fighting him in the hallway there, I think she plays Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy, if I'm not mistaken. I need the full cast here. All cast and crew. What I will say about Hayley Atwell, though, is this. You think she was great as Captain Carter in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? You ain't seen nothing yet. She is so... Okay, she is everything Phoebe Waller-Bridge is not. She is everything that Hollywood thinks Phoebe Waller-Bridge is, but is not. She is charming. She's beautiful. She's sophisticated, intelligent, sexy. She's also vulnerable and witty. She has to think on her feet. I love it. This film absolutely shatters this idea. Oh, you just don't like strong female women. It's like, let me tell you something. This film is full of strong, powerful women who also, like the men, the counterparts, have flaws. They have weaknesses. They also have incredible strengths and incredible skills. And what I love about Haley Atwell's character is she plays a thief. She plays a thief. However, she is not a spy. So while she's a very talented thief and she has a lot of really useful skills like pickpocketing, conning people, psychological warfare and stuff like that, she doesn't have super spy moves. She has some fighting ability, but she doesn't have like she doesn't have like Rebecca Ferguson's character of Ilsa. She doesn't have all those skills where she can actually literally fight a dude. So she's actually in quite a bit of danger anytime that there is a skilled fighter in the scene. But she has wit, she has street smarts, and she has to kind of outthink her way out of situations. She is trying to avoid Ethan Hunt because she has a mission of her own, and he needs to bring her in because she's in over her head. So this is basically what it boils down to. She is effectively the same character archetype that they were trying to make Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Helena. The only difference is, in this case, it succeeded wildly. She is endearing, she's charming, she starts out as kind of a rogue, but she winds up being a character you care about by the end. What else? Let's see. If I can find it here. All right. Well, I will dig it out later. So this is what I want to say. So there are two scenes in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning that are very close to each other. In Indiana 5, it is the tuk-tuk chase in the streets of Cairo, right? Where basically Helena, the thief, is fleeing multiple different parties, including Indiana Jones. She's trying to escape. Indiana Jones needs to catch her in order to clear his name for murder that she basically left him in. And so she's chasing her. A bunch of other people are chasing her. She's trying to escape. And there's this chase through the streets of Cairo. In Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, there's a very similar scene in which Haley Atwell's thief is trying to escape Ethan Hunt. And Ethan Hunt is trying to he's basically trying to catch her because she has something he needs, but at the same time, he also is trying to save her from herself because she's going to get herself killed because she doesn't know what she's in for. And so he's chasing her, and there's also government agents chasing him and a couple of other parties that are chasing them. There is this action scene, and I don't want to give away too much. I'm just going to say the action sequence in Dead Reckoning, it was exciting. All of the stakes were clear. You knew exactly why every party was chasing who. You knew who was chasing whom, and you knew the reasons why everyone was chasing the other. They had all of these clever uses of different types of vehicles in the streets of, I believe it's Venice, if I'm not mistaken. And along the way, you have this banter between Ethan Hunt and Grace, who is basically, she's trying to con him. He's trying to he's trying to convince her to trust him. But at the same time, he knows that she's trying to pickpocket him and con him and escape and all this stuff. And so he's trying to outsmart her. And so there's this kind of game between them that they're playing. But at the same time, they need each other to escape. And they wind up in all these situations like they're handcuffed together and they have to somehow escape the situation. And it comes across as playful, but also high stakes at the same time. You should have seen the reaction of the audience. People were laughing. They were chuckling. There's a difference between kind of laughing at the idiot, oh, what an idiot, Ant-Man, The Flash, Ezra, when Indiana Jones laughing at the old man. There's a difference between the sound of that laughter and the laughter when people are delighted. The laughter you hear when people are like, oh, that's so funny. That's so clever. That was what I was hearing in this, it's what I was experiencing, because there's a great sort of moment when they have to switch cars, and there's just like I said, it's kind of a story to the scene. There's even I can't even believe I forgot this. There's even a very slight joke, somewhat at the expense of Ethan Hunt, because he's getting older. He's an older agent, and it's getting a little harder for him to stay on the very cutting edge of all the spy tech. And so they even have a little joke in there at his expense about the spy tech has gotten more advanced and he's sort of catching up. And it's, it does not undermine his character. It's funny, but the very next thing that happens is he goes right back to being an incredible super spy who is figuring his way out of things. And I think the fact that his character has always been an improviser from the very beginning, he's always in situations he's got to work his way out of and think on his feet. It just makes him always super endearing and super charming. The fact that if she doesn't have him in that car, she's dead. Like, she is not going to escape without him. And so that adds to the suspense of the scene, because even though, he's stumbling here and there and we're getting a joke at his expense, we also acknowledge that he's got to get on his feet. He's got to figure this out. Because if he doesn't, they're both screwed. At the same time, he needs her, right? So there is a give and a take. There is a balance and a repartee. Silverback is in the chat. He says, ahoy, ahoy, Silverback. And, yes, Fuban Blue says, I didn't buy it for her, meaning buy the book, my book, The Blood and Oak. So, yes, I appreciate that, Fuban Blue. Now, compare this chase that I'm describing as vaguely as I can, because I don't want to give away too much of the fun. Compare this chase in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning to the Tuk Tuk chase with Phoebe Waller-Forehead. She also is supposed to be a delightful thief who is just down on her luck and just has a deep need, as she would put it, for cash. She's trying to balance her need for cash. Cash, says the Forehead. So Helena has a need for cash, and apparently her need for cash means that she has to abandon Indiana Jones. She locks him into the museum, or not the museum, but the archives at the university. She locks him into the archives at the university where there are armed men with guns shooting at him, knowing that he's likely to die, which then ultimately results in him being framed for murder. She leaves him again, but it basically tells him, screw you. I don't care that you're going down for murder. You abandoned me. You're my godfather. And you were supposed to give me everything in the world, and you didn't, and I have a need for cash, so screw you. And so she abandons him again at the hands of mafiosos in Cairo. Later in the film, she abandons him at the bottom of the ocean. She basically doesn't give a crap at all after all of his friends get murdered on a boat. He has to tell her, hey, my friends just died. Oh, my friends just died. Do you mind? Oh, I'm so sorry. And we're supposed to think this character's charming. We're supposed to think that this is a thief with a heart of gold. She's gangly. She's weird. The way she runs, the way this woman runs it's like, she's like, I have to go downstairs. She should be a nerd, right? She should be kind of an awkward bookworm. She could have been, I'm being very charitable here, but, in some universe, it's possible she could have been charming as a bookworm with no, street skills, who needed help unraveling this mystery. She had all the knowledge, but she didn't have, the Indiana Jones ability to, get across ravines with a whip and stuff like that. So it could have worked, but I have to admit, with this actress, I don't know, because she's so up her own asshole that it's like I can't call it. I don't know if charisma is possible for her, because she's so smug in every moment. And so there is not one scene in this entire film where Haley Atwell's character of Grace she is required to define herself as so smart, brilliant, beautiful, a career woman, don't you know? There's not one point in the film where she has to talk about her skills. She just has them. Grace in Mission Impossible is just good at what she does. And the audience does not have to be told that she's good at what she does because we just see it. There is an excellent scene when her and Ethan Hunt first meet. There's something Phoebe Waller-Bridge also knows nothing about. There's chemistry. There is not that we would have wanted chemistry between her and Indiana, but you get what I'm saying. There's actually a playfulness between two characters that are at cross purposes. The chase in Egypt, in Cairo. The setup for the scene is a bunch of shit thrown at the wall. It is, she was dating... They literally introduce us to the concept that she has been dating a mobster who she's also been fleecing for money, who she also then dumped and left at the altar, who also is an obsessed boyfriend, who also is chasing her because he loves her, but he also has a father that's a mobster that he needs to, like, get money back for. So he has two motives. He has two motives, not one, two that are sort of conflicting with each other and muddying the scene. He's going to be chasing her. Then we have this absolutely convoluted situation with Voller, the villain, who is weirdly employing some Southern, I guess, of course, Southern American neo-Nazis who are working for him, but are also working for the CIA, but the CIA, for whatever reason, is unaware that they have employed a Nazi, and they also have this pure as the wind-driven snow CIA agent who does whatever she can to protect civilians. I swear, it's like this is like a puff piece for the CIA, this character. So that's all very complicated, and they're chasing her. So you get this, what you get in the tuk-tuk chase in Indiana Jones is a feeling of anxiety. You get a feeling of anxiety because the motives of the characters are confusing. She's not likable. She's mean. It's not clear what Indiana Jones is going to accomplish, even if he catches her. Like, if he catches her and brings her back to the U.S., then what? She's going to go to the police and explain, oh, well, this is what happened. I was looking for this dial of destiny. And what happened? But a couple of neo-Nazis came along and started shooting at us, and it wasn't the old man. And they're going, oh, thanks for clearing that up, miss. We really appreciate it. It's like, I can't even explain to you what the writers of this film were even thinking the resolution was going to be if he caught her. There was none. What? Oh, if he gets her half of the dial, that's going to clear it up? Oh, yes, officer. I know it looks like I murdered two of my colleagues and left a bloody thumbprint on the phone, but you see this half dial? It's called the dial of destiny. This proves I'm innocent. This thing proves you're innocent? Yes, it does, because I have it. Oh, okay. You're not free. You're no longer on the hook for murder. Your charges are cleared. You're free to go. So what you have is a soup of disconnected, convoluted plot elements that are ostensibly creating stakes, but they aren't. And then add to that a bunch of noisy, loud CGI madness that I don't care about. Then add to that the fact that I don't like Indiana Jones in this scene. I don't like her. The kid is, he's fine, but who cares? And then none of this makes sense. There's nothing on the line. It's awful. It's noise. It amazed me to watch how Mission Impossible, in one throw, was able to create all the things that scene in Indiana Jones wanted to have. A clever, charming, and likable thief who is down on her luck and has a need for cash. But who's in over her head and needs some help from an adventurer, Ethan Hunt, who is on a quest of his own and needs her help even though she doesn't want to help him. Multiple parties chasing them, all with different motives, but all those motives are carefully set up and fleshed out, so there is no doubt whatsoever why any single actor in the scene is doing anything they're doing. There's no doubt at all. The audience is with it. They understand it. They're on the ride. They're happy to be there. Clever set pieces that are choreographed and surprise you at different moments. I wish I could tell you, but I don't want to tell you because I don't want to spoil anything. But there's just these little surprises that they throw, these curveballs. That's the thing. That's what it is. Like if you ask ChatGPT, give me a car chase sequence. What is ChatGPT going to do? It's going to give you a predictable, obvious set series of events, right? That's what Indiana Jones car chase is like. It's just a predictable series of events, which means that the audience is ahead of it the whole time. Mission Impossible, it's the complete opposite. You think you know what's going to happen, and then something totally different happens instead. And then you think I get it, this is where it's going, and then it goes in a totally other direction. But it's never, it always fits the plot. It always fits what's actually happening in the story. So it's excellent. So Rebecca Ferguson as Ilsa remains excellent. If you've seen the past films, you already know what she's about. You already know she's an excellent character. She's got charm, sexiness, all of that. What blew me away about Hayley Atwell's character is that she doesn't have the super spy skills. And so she has to rely on other characters to help her with what she can't do, but she has some pretty interesting skills of her own that no one else has. And it creates this complementary dynamic between not just her and Ethan Hunt, but her and Ilsa, and her and the rest of the Mission Impossible team. And she has a story arc in this that is where she is on a journey. And it's a journey that you're actually happy to go on. And here's the kicker. Here's what's important. Unlike a Kathleen Kennedy self-insert like Rey Palpatine or Phoebe Waller-Forehead, Hayley Atwell's journey in this story is not just a journey for her character. It is a journey that helps to complete Ethan Hunt's journey over the course of 7 films. I mean this quite seriously. Ethan Hunt, we meet Ethan Hunt as a young agent in his prime. He's now an aging agent who's got some mileage on him. And he's really in the fight of his life in this film. I mean, this is his most severe threat he's ever faced, he's ever fought. He is most in over his head than he's ever been. He is scrambling for every victory that he needs. And what's amazing about it is we need him. Like, he is the only man for the job in this film. And I love that. I just love it. He's in over his head, and he's also our only hope at the same time. Brilliant. And her story plays into that story. It just brings things full circle in this incredible way. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I want to see this film multiple times. I was thinking about it after I left the theater, which is a great sign. It is. I love Boo Man Blue says, all hail Silverback to the spoiler. You're getting some love in the chat there, Silverback. Just thought I'd let you know, in case you weren't reading. So yes, Mission Impossible, out of 10 possible bars on the epaulets, Mission Impossible 7, Dead Reckoning, Part 1 scores 9. 9 out of 10 bars on the epaulets. And you might say, but Captain, why 9? Why 9 and not 10? Because Mission Impossible Fallout gets 10. Mission Impossible is a perfect 10 out of 10 film. I absolutely love that movie. And it is still the best in the franchise by a nose. By a nose. Dead Reckoning, what I love the most about Dead Reckoning is this. Unlike the other, it's still got all the fun. It's still got all the levity and the capers and the set pieces. But this is definitely a film where they are building. They're building to a just maximum stakes finale. And it's really good. It's the highest stakes mission ever. And what I love about it is it taps into real world stakes. It taps into what we're really worried about. It's awesome. So go see Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning. See it twice. You're going to want to, because you're going to say, you know what? I missed a couple things in that action scene. I got to see it again. It's just a great time. It's a great time at the theater. Why is Hollywood so clueless? This is a lost art. There's no mystery to this. For decades, Hollywood was capable of making this formula that Tom Cruise is a producer, and the talent behind this film that I give him a lot of the credit because, obviously, yes, we have the director, Chris McQuarrie, who deserves great credit. But, I personally believe it is, and this is based on kind of my experience with Maverick as well, I believe it is Tom Cruise that is driving the quality in this film because he is committed to the tried and true methods of excellent storytelling. It's not complicated, folks. Stories are not as complicated as, the woke propagandists who just want to preach at you, or just the lazy corporate write by algorithm and write by committee writers would have you believe. They try and make it sound complicated. It's not. Stories are a Swiss watch, and if every component is there, they work every time they're tried. Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, to the extent that there's any novelty, it's simply in the creativity of the action scenes. But the basic plot beats are the same as they always are. And the basic elements of a hero that you like, a rogue that you find charming and endearing, a team that supports our hero, all those things are there, and they are what they have always been since the Epic of Gilgamesh. They are the same. They are the same things, and they are everything that is missing in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Thor: Love and Thunder, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Shazam 2, The Flash. All those elements are missing in those films, and the audience is not always aware of what's missing, but they know something is missing, and that shows in the box office results. But we are going to have to find out what old Bobby Iger over there has to say. Has he finally learned his lesson, my dear friends? Has he finally learned what it takes to be successful in this business? Well, we're going to find out. I'm going to pull up some articles for you. Indiana Jones is an absolute disaster. The more I think about this fifth film, the more I hate it. And especially after seeing Mission Impossible, I'm like, geez, here's how I know I'm in a good film. Whenever I am in a really good film, my imagination starts to take off. And I actually start to think about my own stories. I start to think about, even if the story in my head is totally unrelated to what I'm watching, I just start to get images and pictures in my mind of things I would love to do in my own story. And I get that from great cinema. And it's amazing how when I'm watching Secret Invasion, oh my God, I feel dumber. I feel less creative when I watch that show. It's incredible. That show is a drainer. It is an absolute drainer. So I got this for you. I'm going to show you something that's going to be cool. I'm going to show you what Bobby Iger has to say. Oh my God, this guy. Nothing's getting better over there at Disney, folks. Let me tell you. All right, so here we go. Indiana Jones. Oh, wait, let me... where's my browser? There it is. Try this headline. And you are watching the Captain's Cast. Please do like and subscribe. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny bombs at the box office. This from Screen Geek. It sadly looks like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny has unfortunately bombed at the box office following its theatrical release. Oh no! The long-awaited sequel, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, is finally playing in theaters. Unfortunately, Disney's newly released Indiana Jones continuation appears to have bombed. In fact, the film only opened with $130 million worldwide. Oof! Which is less than the $139 million at the box office bomb The Flash managed to earn. Furthermore, Indiana Jones sequel is said to have cost more than $300 million to make, with marketing costs, while The Flash was estimated at $250 million. Either way, both films appear to be box office bombs, with the fifth Indiana Jones making even less at the box office so far. I don't know why I'm reading it in my SJW voice. I guess it's because he said it in the subheadline, unfortunately. I'm like, you know what? Wrong move, sir. You're getting the SJW voice for that. Unfortunately. Who's rooting for this film? Honestly, who cares? Why are people so willing to just die on the hill of defending Disney? If they make crap, they deserve to fail. It's just, look, there's nothing personal. It's nothing personal. It's just the reality. You should not be shoveling garbage in the theater and feeling entitled to have customers. It's like, why is it that like everyone, you go to Walmart, you buy a piece of crap, it breaks. What do? You bring it back to Walmart and you bitch about it. You bitch about it. You're like, I bought this piece of junk and it broke the first day. Oh, I'm very sorry, sir. It's like, well, you should stop selling cheap junk. We're perfectly fine to do that at Walmart. For some reason, we feel like it's like they want to guilt trip us about not liking a movie. It's like, you made a bunch of garbage. You made shit. And you know what? I could live with it. You know, if I heard these people coming out and saying, you know, well, we're really disappointed in the reception. We worked really hard on this. We thought we had a winner here, and maybe we just, we made this mistake or that mistake. We hope the fans will give it a second chance. If that were the tone, I would actually be, honestly, I probably would be a lot less irritated by these failures. I'd probably say, well, these are the problems. These are the things and I would probably have a lot of compassion for the filmmakers who failed, because creativity ain't easy. But is that what we hear? No, that's not what we hear. What we hear is, well, it's the fans' fault. It's review bombing. It's racists. It's toxic man babies. And it's like, well, screw you. Just screw you. Because nobody owes you shit. I don't care whether you are a billion-dollar corporation or a small independent artist. Nobody owes you a living. Nobody. And the minute that you think you're entitled to that, well, you're in for some pain. You're in for pain. And it's self-inflicted. So anyway, it's the entitlement that gets the SJW voice. So this movie cost, well, it was more than 300 million, folks. We know that Disney is fudging the numbers. We've got evidence coming out of that. And that means they are a deep doo-doo. Now, what does old Bob Iger have to say? This from the Direct. The Disney CEO blames one thing for Marvel's Phase 4 to 5 disappointments. Well, this ought to be rich. In an interview with CNBC, Bob Iger credited Disney Plus demands as the reasons for Marvel Studios' recent struggles. Oh, really? Oh, really? Now, I realize we're talking about Marvel here, but stick with me. I have a point. Upon his return to his former role as Disney CEO last November, Iger has been pumping the brakes in terms of content output and actively cutting costs, all the while championing creativity and quality over quantity. Oh, is that what we're seeing? Creativity? I'll believe that when I see it. Let me explain to you where to find creativity. Go ask Tom Cruise. Go ask Chris McQuarrie. Go ask Haley Atwell. They understand creativity. They could help you. On the heels of Disney extending his contract, that is Bob Iger's, an additional 2 years, Iger isn't just acknowledging the MCU's Phase 4 and 5 problems, but pinpointing the cause. To start, when asked about Disney's subpar box office performance of late, including Pixar's Elemental, Iger confessed, there have been some disappointments. Prepare yourselves, my dear sailors and startups. Prepare yourselves. You are about to hear professional, industrial-grade corporate BS. You are about to hear how corporate, if Bob Iger himself is not a psychopath, and I'm not saying that he is, the mechanism of the corporate machine's ability to lie, and it's in and of itself psychopathic. It's like literally a cold, dead entity just lying to you. So prepare yourselves. Well, first of all, the studio and its movie assets are number one at the global box office this year so far. Liar! That said, we're extremely realistic, and I'm very objective about that business. And there have been some disappointments. We would have liked some of our more recent releases to perform better. But according to Iger, the current situation stems from the company's zeal to grow streaming content that ended up taxing our people and spreading creatives too thin. It's reflective, not as a problem from a personnel perspective, but I think in our zeal to basically grow our content significantly, to serve mostly our streaming offerings, we ended up taxing our people way beyond in terms of their time and their focus, way beyond where they had been. What a bunch of BS! I get this. Dude, your problem is that you have way too many people who don't know what the hell they're doing, sir. They're not writers. They're out there on strike and they're doing you a favor is your problem. Now, he knows this. I'm convinced the guy knows all this, but he can't say it. He can't say it. And he's also infected by the woke mind virus. So neither can he abandon his defense of the ideology and the propaganda storytelling. He cannot do that, and he won't. But what he can do is quietly, passive-aggressively get rid of people that are the worst drain. And he's a bean counter, and he's trying to count the beans here. He's trying to make the bean count work. And he will try. He absolutely is going to try, but because his mindset is from the corporate accounting perspective, all he's doing is managing. He's just managing the garbage. He has no understanding of what he's actually got to eliminate to get creativity back in it. So, I could lay this all out for you. Well, actually, one more for you. One more pull quote. In addition to churning out television series for streaming, which was new territory for the studio, Marvel was also increasing their movie output, resulting in Iger's diagnosis of diluted focus and attention. Marvel's a great example of that. They had not been in the TV business at any significant level. Not only did they increase their movie output, but they ended up making a number of television series, and frankly, it diluted focus and attention. That is, I think, more the cause than anything else. The cause is you suck at making TV. Disney cannot make TV. See Andor for examples. Andor is the best TV show they have produced. It is also filled with pacing problems. It is filled with boring exposition dumps. The main character, the titular character, and I love any excuse to use the word titular, Andor is boring, and he is played by a fairly banal actor. I mean, look, he does fine. I liked him in Rogue One. Stellan Skarsgård steals the show. It's the best show they've written, and it's got massive problems. It's not written for TV. So I'm just going to let Gary over at Nerdrotic break it down for you. Hat tip, Nerdrotic. Gary, I'm just going to play a part of his analysis here.
88,000 awakening wonders in the 40% who haven't subscribed yet, you know the drill. After 2 years of Marvel Stage 4 MCU failures and a string of Lucasfilm misfires, including Willow, which was not only canceled, it was removed from Disney+. And I would be remiss to not bring up the multiple Pixar flops. Millions of subs lost and billions of dollars lost on D+. After wading into politics and getting into a fight with an entire state and losing its special tax status. Disney stocks started to tank, and then they fired their CEO, Bob Chapek, in the middle of the night on a Sunday, only to bring back Bobby Iger, the weatherman. And how has it gone since then?
What are you, f***ing stupid?
Unfortunately for Disney, all downhill, including firing Marvel executive Victoria Alonso. This was followed by firing Marvel chairman Ike Perlmutter along with 7,000 other people, but it doesn't end there. Then the chief diversity officer, Latondra Newton, departed. Galaxy's Edge, the Disney Star Wars experience that charged families thousands of dollars for rooms the size of your average broom closet, shut down permanently. The stock continued to tank, and so did the box office. Antifa Man, Commie Mania was a flop. Little Mermaid underperformed, in other words, was a flop. Elemental, another Pixar flop. And this was closely followed by the massive catastrophic flop that was Indiana Jones and the Depends of Destiny, which I'm sure is going to add to the reported almost $1 billion they've lost in recent films, and that is overshadowed by the $4 billion they've lost in streaming. And if all that wasn't bad enough, the hits keep coming, except in Disney's case. Indy 5 was in embarrassed by 2 indie movies, and we'll get into that in just a bit. Things have gotten so bad.
So definitely like and subscribe over there at Nerdrotic. His videos are just on fire lately. So that little breakdown sums it up for you. $5 billion this company has lost on their Disney Plus and their films. $5 billion. And look at how Bob Iger talks about it. It's we gave them too much to do. We were overextended on our personnel. It's like you take no responsibility for the fact that your company has no creative life left in it. Now, there's one more piece of this I want to show you. Let me see if I can find it here. It's kind of towards the end of the video. So this is a 17-minute video. It's worth every minute. It's fantastic. I think I'm going to pick it up right about here. I just want you to see this piece.
Well, when was the last time you bought a ticket and went into a movie theater? Has it been a while?
I have seen movies on a big screen.
Yes.
You know, in a theater.
Right.
But there was nobody else in the room.
Did you shoot Greedo first, or did Greedo shoot you first?
I love this.
I don't care.
Was forced to say this.
Oh, you gotta love Harrison. Did you shoot first or did Greedo shoot first? I don't care. It's like, dude, if that could just sum up, Harrison Ford in every movie he's in lately. I don't care. Now what Gary does brilliantly here is he then juxtaposes this with another message that Harrison Ford had.
For more than 40 years, I've been honored to be your Indiana Jones. Every moment of this adventure has been made for you, the fans, and it's been one of the greatest joys of my career.
I don't care.
Again, we've heard a lot of reasons why Disney is failing right now, and they are legitimate, but we haven't heard the biggest one. Pissing off your audience. And what led to that? Well, I'll try to do this off the top of my head. Horrific writing that led to beloved characters being sacrificed on the altar of agenda, including Han, Luke, Leia, Captain America, and Iron Man, who were all killed off, and Disney thought you could just move past them when they are the brand. And some of the core characters that were left were vandalized beyond all recognition, including but not limited to Obi-Wan, Boba Fett, Hulk, Hawkeye, Thor, all leading to the overall destruction of the beloved IPs that we, the fans, made worth the billions you paid for them. But way to go, Disney. You've turned billions into millions. Biggest mistake of them all.
So yes, hat tip, Nerdrotic, check that out. I love that little breakdown. But he captured that excellent Harrison Ford clip. Oh my God. Dude, is that not a hostage video? For 15 years, I've been your Harrison, I've been your Indiana Jones. And I'm really grateful that you came to the theater. And I'll see you at the movies unless there's snakes. He's just like gun to his head. Tell the fans you like them. Tell the fans you care. I really hope you'll go see this movie. It's a turd. I don't care. Silverback to the spoiler. I don't care. It sounds like a typical grumpy 80-year-old man to me. It sounds like you. Sounds like you, Silverback. Come on. It's true. It's true. I mean, I guess it's typical. Well, look, compare that to Bill Shatner. William Shatner. That guy is sharp as a tack. He's, he just watch anything with Bill Shatner in it lately. That guy loves life. He absolutely loves life. He loves his characters. He loves what he does. He loves comedy. There's no reason to be that miserable all the time. But you know what it is? Let me tell you something. If Harrison Ford were given an actual script that made his character soar, that just delivered, honestly, if it delivered something beautiful, like what you had with Haley Atwell's character in Mission Impossible with Helena, with an actress who wasn't as uncharming, unlikable, and unappealing a woman as I can freaking imagine, assuming that he probably would have an actually genuine appreciation because, you know, this crazy idea, I know, but I think actors are most alive when they're playing characters that they do care about, that please the audience and make the audience happy. I can't imagine how soul-crushing it would be to be this character, to be this iconic character, and to hear all the fans hate it, it was a box office bomb, and to be going through the motions and the freaking volume behind, you know, just green screens and mocap suits and volumes everywhere. It would feel soul-crushing. It would be depressing. And so I can't blame Harrison Ford for sounding like a grumpy 80-year-old man. Silverback says, yeah, the I don't care comment was an honest moment. The hostage video was just that. I know. It's like, oh, Harrison, they're not liking this movie. You got to go out there and do what old Tommy Cruise did. You got to get out there and say, I'm sorry, and I love you fans, and you're great, and you're not racist at all, and you're not alt-right. That's not true. We didn't mean any of those mean old nasty things we said before. Now please go buy a ticket. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. You're not racist anymore. You're not. You're very mature and intelligent people, and I'm very happy to be Indiana Jones for you. So please go to the theater so I don't ever have to be Indiana Jones for you again. Oh, thank you. I'm Harrison Ford. Do what now? Do what now? So yeah, so that's what's happening over there. And, you know, Bob Iger is going to die on this hill. He absolutely is. Try this headline. This from Bounding Into Comics. The Walt Disney Company's CEO Bob Iger claims the notion that Disney is in any way sexualizing our children, quite frankly, is preposterous and inaccurate. The Walt Disney Company's CEO Bob Iger recently did a sit-down interview with CNBC's David Faber while attending the Sun Valley Conference in Idaho, where he denied that the company is sexualizing children. No, certainly couldn't be anything to do with the not-so-secret gay agenda mentioned on that company staff call. That couldn't be it. Couldn't be anything to do with suppressing and shelving a movie about actually stopping child predators. No, couldn't be that. At one point during the interview, Faber asked Iger, what about Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who is going to be on the hot seat, so to speak, for the next year, I think? I'm not sure what that word is. I must be missing something here. And he's made this part of his campaign, attacking Disney, saying it's a woke corporation. It is. Faber then quoted DeSantis. We put the company on a pedestal, but they've really embraced the idea of getting these sexualized content in the program line that I'm not really willing to cross. I mean, that's what he said. I quoted DeSantis there. How do you respond to that? And what does Bob Iger say? Well, so far, what we've said publicly is that we are concerned that he has decided to retaliate against the company for the position the company took on pending legislation in that state. And frankly, the company was within its right, even though I'm not sure it was handled very well. It was within its right to speak up on an issue, constitutionally protected right of free speech. And to retaliate against the company in that way would be harmful to the business. It was not something that we would sit back and tolerate. So we have filed a lawsuit to protect our First Amendment rights there and to protect our business. And notice how these people, boy, they sure love the First Amendment, don't they? They sure love the First Amendment when it's serving their mega corporation and it's serving their interests. When it's anyone criticizing their movie, it's review bombing. It's we need to remove the dislike button from YouTube. It's we need we need to copyright claim any channel that's saying things we don't like. No, they love the First Amendment until it's not suiting their purposes. Cough button. Meanwhile, he is absolutely gaslighting here because he's saying that, the Florida government retaliated against Disney for having a position, for stating an opinion. That is a lie. If Disney had simply said, well, we disagree with this legislation and we continue to stand by our LGBT plus Q, whatever employees, and we side with them. And if that is all they had said, nothing would have happened. But that's not what they did. What they did was they said, and we are going to work in the state and with the courts to try and help get this overturned. In other words, interfering with the will of the people in a state. The people of that state, having duly elected that legislature or governor, had every right to pass legislation in response to that. So he's lying. He is saying that, he is confusing speech with activism, with literally interfering in the operation of a state. Well, if you're going to, and by the way, what exactly was the retaliation that he's talking about? Well, it was, look, aren't you the everyone should pay their fair share crowd? Aren't you the people that are where are the tax returns crowd? Isn't that you? Except that when your company, Disney, has a deal that no other amusement park in the state has, which is they got to write and manage their own taxes. They basically had their own ability to govern themselves, Disney World. The state said, nobody else has that deal. We're taking that away from you. That's not fair. Oh, well, our First Amendment rights are under attack. No, your bottom line is under attack because now you have to pay the taxes, your fair share, that you're not paying, that you claim to advocate everyone should have to pay. Liar. That's what Bob Iger is. So nothing's getting better. His contract has been extended through 2026. We will continue to see box office failure after box office failure. Yes. So that is unfortunately where we're at there. Now, shall we take a look at the Ahsoka trailer? Let's take a look at the Ahsoka trailer, shall we? Now, this is going to be fun because I have not actually watched the whole thing through. So, your captain is nothing if not fair. Your captain is nothing if not reasonable. And I am happy to concede. If I see this trailer and I think it's going to be the most magnificent thing ever, I will tell you. Silverback says the Disney deal was an extreme sweetheart deal written back in the 60s. It has no place in the modern world and would never get passed today. You're correct, sir. You are correct. All right, here we go.
War is inevitable. One must destroy in order to create. We are no Jedi.
Well, right off the bat, the late Ray Stevenson. It's so sad to see he is gone because he is wicked cool in that trailer. This is the real shame about Disney Star Wars is that they actually cast great actors a lot of the time. They have the makings of greatness there. They just destroy it all with their woke garbage, first of all, their identity, intersectional feminist politics, which are ridiculous and really undermine female characters and undermine their male characters and undermine just their audience having fun. And then they take all these shortcuts. They have bloated staffs. They have bloated budgets. They have no discipline in their filmmaking whatsoever. They don't listen to their fans. They create division and anger and divisiveness with their marketing strategy. They embrace all that, and they strangle the golden goose. So what disappoints me about it is I see something like this, and I think, well, gee, Ray Stevenson looks awesome. That seems cool. But you know what? I'm wise to the trick. This show is going to be garbage. I can absolutely promise you it's going to be garbage. I don't care how good the trailer is. It's going to be garbage. Because everything they do. Secret Invasion. You've got to watch it and tell me that there's 1 ounce of creativity. There's 2 brain cells to rub together in this company. There isn't.
I started hearing whispers. of Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire.
Oh.
What happens when we find Thrawn?
Power. Such as...
Oh. If you know anything about the extended universe, you know that Heir to the Empire was one of the most beloved stories in the extended universe. And my understanding of it is that it's really Luke's story, if I'm not mistaken. And they're giving that story to Ahsoka. So they're taking a better story. So rather than adapting the novel, which actually would be a good idea, just adapt the novel, adapt the story, adapt Shadows of the Empire. Why not do that? But they won't do that. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to steal the work of better writers and better creators. They're going to run it through the algorithm wood chipper. They're going to add all the stupid MCU humor that they need to undermine every dramatically tense moment, and they're going to create more slop. It's going to be exactly the same as everything else they create. It's going to have exactly the same tone. It's all going to be filmed in the volume. It's going to be it's just going to be garbage.
You've never dreamed.
Girl boss, girl boss.
I've spent most of my life fighting a war. That's why I'm trying to convince you to help me prevent another one.
Oh, that is disappointing. I've actually seen Star Wars Rebels, and it's not as good as Clone Wars. It has some moments that aren't bad. This is disappointing to me. The actress they found to play this character, she does not sound at all like this character. Hera.
You and I both know who could help you with this.
She's still just as stubborn as ever.
I bet your master found you difficult at the time. I bet your master found you difficult at
Stubborn as ever.
They are incapable of making interesting planets. Look at this. It's a desert with a highway in it. Jeez. What genius. What heights of brilliance. I mean, they everything is gray and dismal in this. I mean, if you go back to, let me see if I could find, well, we'll come back. We'll circle back to it. I just watch for it. Everything here looks the same. I'm just going to make sure that everything looks good. Stream health. All right. I'm worried about the copyright, so I'm just keeping an eye on it. All right, here we go.
I bet your master found you difficult at times.
Anakin never got to finish my training. I walked away from him, just like I walked away from Sabine.
You never made things easy for me, Master.
As a Jedi, sometimes you have to make the decision no one else can. But I'm counting on you to see this through.
Nice haircut.
Oh, of course, she has the haircut. Yeah, women are not allowed to have long hair anymore, don't you know? They must look like androgynous boys. From now to the rest of time, that is what is required to be a strong female woman.
Sometimes we have to do what's right, regardless of our personal feelings.
Okay, dead serious. This is not me being biased. This is not me hating on Lucasfilm. This strikes me as CW casting. I'm not shitting you. Like, I am not impressed with any of the performances I'm seeing here. Like, these are dead, lifeless performances. Especially from, and if you've seen Star Wars Rebels, the voice acting is very good for Sabine. So this is not looking good. Now, Rosario Dawson was, I mean, I saw the episode of Mandalorian she was in. I liked it. I liked her. I liked her as the character. That being said, you know, the more I hear her perform Ahsoka, the more it's just kind of a monotone. It's just like, Anakin never got to finish my training. You know what it is? It's Bo-Katan all over again. Oh my God. It's Bo-Katan all over again. This is how Bo-Katan talks. In every episode of The Mandalorian, she's like, I want to lead our people. I gave the Darksaber to Moff Gideon. Why do you want me to be part of your cult? It's like, it's just,
Buckle up.
Generic
if
dialogue.
If we don't stop Thrawn, everything will be in vain.
Okay, he does look like Elon Musk. There's a meme going around that he looks like Elon Musk. Like he does.
You have no power.
Anakin spoke highly of you.
I'm not here to discuss my past.
We have a lot.
You mean the one thing that's interesting about you? That you knew Anakin Skywalker?
Of work to do.
Once a rebel, always a rebel.
Do you see what I mean? This is cringe. Listen to this line delivery again. Once a rebel, always a rebel.
We have a lot of work to do.
Once a rebel, always a rebel.
Gee, so fun. So once a rebel, always a rebel. Ugh. God, it's slop. It is slop. They're just shoveling more shit, my friends. I am so not impressed by this. You know what? This is the most surprising thing about it. I am shocked that like every performance in that trailer, except Ray Stevenson, he is the one part of that is killer awesome. Everything else, we've got work to do. Oh, buckle up. Once a rebel, always a rebel. I never got to finish my training with Anakin. I'm not here to talk about my past. Oh my God. This is gonna be garbage, and I am here for it. I'm excited for it. There you have it. Star Wars Acolyte, everybody. Star Wars Acolyte. Let me know if you're excited. If you're excited for Acolyte. You know, at this point, they're starting to ruin lightsaber duels for me. I'm not shitting you. They are starting to ruin lightsaber duels for me. I'm like, because do you notice that they all look the same now? It's like spinny lightsaber. It's like there's, say one thing for George Lucas. We're just never gonna have to stop apologizing to that poor man. we're all right, George. We're sorry. Okay, we made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. Just he at least created. When I try to make my movies, I always try to do something new. I try to show people things that they've never seen before. When I make my movies, he would give us a new kind of lightsaber fight in every single one of those prequels. Anakin's fight with Obi-Wan looked different than Yoda's fight with the Emperor, which looked different than their fight with Count Dooku. It was cool. There was something interesting about every different lightsaber fight. And now, it's just lightsabers. It's just lightsabers swinging at each other. That's all it is. It's very disappointing. And, sadly, I have more stuff to share with you. That is underwhelming. Oh, that's right. We have to talk about The Walking Dead Dead City. I almost forgot about that. So we're going to talk about The Walking Dead Dead City. And we're going to talk about a couple other stories related to Sound of Freedom and the media's immune response. The Sound of Freedom. All right, cool. All right, so Walking Dead, Dead City. So if you don't know, this is a spin-off of the Walking Dead main series, and it is starring two of the principal characters, at least of the last few seasons of Walking Dead, which is Maggie and Negan. And so here's what we're looking at. There you go. There's a good view. So
Please tell me what the hell you are doing out here.
A few weeks back, I got raided.
They took your kid.
I can't play too much of it because then I'll get the copyright. But essentially, the premise of the show is... Okay, spoilers for the Walking Dead main series. I actually haven't seen the end of the Walking Dead series. I got to about the last half of the final season. I'm telling you, it just ground me down. It ground me down. I cannot care. It's like every single season. It's like, oh, we've encountered a new community of survivors. Gee, are they cannibals? I don't think so. Uh-oh, they're cannibals. It's like every time. Gee, are they a free and open and tolerant society with plentiful resources? It sure looks like it. Uh-oh, they're a totalitarian fascist state. Who could have seen this coming? Every season. I'm like, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm just, okay. Well, who cares? Who cares that they've discovered their 7th totalitarian state that looked like an idyllic utopia? And they have fallen right into the trap, like they always do. These people have been at this for decades now in the story. Decades. And they still haven't learned to spot the signs. They still haven't learned to sidestep a trap laid by a clever totalitarian state that has set up their society to be an alluring pitcher plant for, the unwary traveler, shall we say? It's exhausting, quite frankly. That being said, I think probably the best season arc that they ever had was the fight with Negan. They had 2, maybe 3. They had essentially a 2 to 3 season arc that just built up this epic war with Negan. He was the most ruthless villain they had faced up to that point. He was also the most fun. He was very charming, played by this actor, Henry Dean Morgan, right? I got it wrong. Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Okay. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who plays Negan Smith, also plays the brilliant comedian character in The Watchmen. I love that movie. He's just a great actor. So anyway, Jeffrey Dean Morgan plays this villain, but he plays him with this level of like charming comedy, but also just total psychopathy that is, it's dynamite. Like, he was lightning in a bottle, this performance, this character, and he became the perfect ultimate rival for Rick Grimes. He just was an excellent rival, a nemesis for Rick Grimes, because Rick Grimes at that point had risen to be essentially the leader of multiple communities, and Negan was the leader of the most ruthless and deadly network of vicious, totalitarian, psychopathic communities that the Walking Dead world had ever seen. And it was amazing to watch them battle each other, and it reached a conclusion that I think was pretty cool, which is that, Carl's, spoilers for The Walking Dead, if you care, but it was Carl's dying wish that his father, kind of stopped the cycle of revenge, and instead of murdering this one just this once, let's try sort of the Law and Order way. Like, let's bring it back to Rick as a sheriff, and he's enforcing the law. He's not just going out there for wasteland murder and mayhem. And so Rick decided to not kill Negan, and he imprisoned him in a life sentence at Alexandria, their community. And the idea was he kind of spent like a good decade, basically. They advanced the story like 10 years, and Rick apparently died in an explosion, but he didn't really. And so he left the story. Silverback says, I dropped out of The Walking Dead midway through the Governor villain arc. Well, I would have a hard time talking you out of that. But in any case, I will say the Negan arc was much more interesting and much more exciting than the Governor arc. The Governor arc was weird. It's highs and lows, Walking Dead. I feel like when The Walking Dead was a show about Rick Grimes trying to protect his family and then by extension his people, it was that was when it was at its best. And then it sort of turned into a kind of, I don't know how else to describe it. It became its kind of own Marvel Cinematic Universe version of The Walking Dead, where it was like you had various different principal characters, and they all became kind of superheroes. Daryl was a kind of superhero. Maggie becomes a superhero. Eugene becomes a kind of superhero. it really did become a kind of comic book universe in the last few seasons, and it just got really off the wall. And the problem is it's a repetitive comic book universe. That being said, the dynamic between Negan and Maggie, and basically Negan to demonstrate his supremacy over the survivors, Rick's group, he basically gets them all on their knees and he bashes Glenn to death with a bat in frankly the most horrific scene in the entire series, like bar none. It was horrific. And Maggie watched her husband Glenn get bashed in the head with a baseball bat, which is important because she immediately, naturally, demanded Negan's death. She demanded Negan's death. She wanted revenge. She hated the fact that Rick imprisoned him rather than executing him. And frankly, I can't blame her. But because the plot needed her to not kill Negan, there was constantly all these contrived circumstances. I think I'm talking myself out of liking this show already. There was all these contrived circumstances in which she would want to kill him but couldn't because she needed him for some reason. Meanwhile, he's kind of wheedling his way into getting her forgiveness, and the show can't ever quite figure out whether they want him to be a true psychopath or sort of have a redemption arc. They can never quite figure it out on this show. They gave him a backstory I did not like. However, the idea of him and her, who are kind of like this nemesis, these natural nemeses who hate each other, being forced to go on this adventure in New York, is kind of cool. It's a new aesthetic for the show. It's bringing it back to, I think, what's closer to when the show is good, is when it's centered, when the show has a center. And I think, the center was Rick Grimes in the original series. The center on this show is, Negan and Maggie. And I watched the first episode. I will say this is the most new that the show has felt in a long time. It's the most fresh. It's definitely a lot better than Fear the Walking Dead. Fear the Walking Dead is a snore. It's an absolute snore. Nothing about that show that would make me want to watch it. I tried multiple times to watch like an episode or two. It's boring. It's boring. They do these weird vignettes with the characters. They'll do an episode. They'll have the most interesting high stakes thing happen in episode 3. And then episode 4 will be this long navel-gazing vignette about this character wandering the wasteland and discovering strange little lessons. And it's like, but I want to know what's happening over here. And then finally we'll get back to the other thing that's happening. And now it's taking us away from this character who we're now invested in, who now has something interesting happening to them. So it gives you whiplash, this show. It's not my most eloquent description of what's going on, but if you can center the story on two characters with a specific quest, that could be interesting. So I watched it, and the acting is pretty good. And I will say, you know what? I wish I meant to get this clip for you, but I didn't. I forgot about it, and so I don't have it. But I will say there is one good thing in this first episode that was like Christmas came early, and to me, it kind of made it worth it to watch the first episode. And that is, if you don't know, the character who played the actress who plays Raffi on Star Trek Picard, who is the most awful character on that show, and I despise her. I despise Raffi. She plays a character. Oh my God, I freaked out. She shows up in this show. And I'm like, oh my God, no, I don't want Raffi. I can't. If Raffi's in this show as a principal character, I'm out. Like, I am done. There's no way I'm watching another show with her in it. And then these marshals show up about, roughly the third act of the episode. I'm going to spoil it for you. So, these marshals show up. They walk into this bar where I'm just going to call her Raffi, where Raffi is hanging out and being all snarky. She's just like the Raffi character, by the way. She's the same character. Why does Hollywood like this actor? She has no range. She has no personality or charisma. She's the same character in everything she's in. Anyway, so she's there. They're like, we're looking for someone. We want to know. They're looking for Negan, of course. And they're like, we want to know where this guy is. Does anyone know where he is? And I have to say, the marshals are pretty good. I like the actors playing the marshals. And they ask Raffi if she knows, and she denies it, and she tries to play hardball. So they grab her, they take her outside and they threaten her with the code, which is if you're obstructing justice, it's a death sentence. You know, it's kind of like the judges in Judge Dredd. It's like they're just going to pronounce sentence. And so they basically press her up against a chain link fence where there's a bunch of zombies, and they're clawing at her. No, I'll tell you what you want to know. He went that way. And she tells them everything they want to know. And he's like, oh, okay, good. However, aiding and abetting a criminal, also, that is a death sentence. And so he throws her outside the fence and and feeds her to the zombies. And I'm like, yes, I got to watch Raffi get fed to the zombies. I was so happy. You just don't even know. It was therapy for me. So yes, if you want to see Raffi, if you're a Star Trek Picard survivor, and you would like to see Raffi get fed to zombies, I highly recommend the first episode of The Walking Dead, Dead City. And watch it all the way through, because you want to see her snark first to just really, get you excited for the payoff. Is it a good show? It's better. It's better than what I've seen. I like the aesthetic. It's definitely got a production quality. They do some interesting things with zombies in this. There's like a scene in which the zombies are attracted to the sound of them moving through the city, and they start dropping from the rooftops because they can, they're skyscrapers. So like there's zombies up on the higher floors, and they'll just walk off the ledge. And so you can literally get killed by zombies raining down on you if you're not careful. That was pretty cool. That was pretty clever. So there's actually some new creativity in the show. There's some new juice, I would say. And, on the plus column, Negan and Maggie as a kind of hate each other but need each other buddy combo, I think can work, and it has some promise. On the other hand, I go back to what Quentin Tarantino said. It's like TV shows now are just soap operas. And this strikes me as a soap opera. It makes no sense to me that she does not just kill him. It just doesn't make sense. It's like she should want to kill him. And did in The Walking Dead. She should want to kill him for what he did to Glenn. And she even has like flashbacks to Glenn's murder in this episode. And it makes it even more puzzling. And it's like, and yes, she gives him the business about, you can never be forgiven for what you did. And it's like, I already know what the show is doing. The show is creating a melodrama in which they are going to wind up begrudgingly becoming partners, maybe even friends. And I just don't feel it's earned. And even if it is at some point earned, I do not feel that it is interesting enough. So, sadly, out of 10 possible bars on the epaulets, the captain is going to rate The Walking Dead Dead City. I am going to rate it a 6. I will give it a 6 bars on the epaulets. It was somewhat entertaining. It had some compelling villains in it, some interesting tricks with the zombies, but it is mostly soap opera melodrama. And I just can't get over how implausible it is that she would put up with this guy. I will also say the MacGuffin in the story is that she's trying to find her son who is lost in the city. I would say it's a pretty weak Golden Fleece story so far. It's just not that compelling because we've seen this so many times in Walking Dead. Oh, so-and-so has been kidnapped. I have to go get them back. And it's like, except this time it's not for an episode, it's for a whole season. And I just don't know if I'm in for a whole season of her whining about having to get her son back. It's like, could we not have something more interesting on the line here? It's just something more original. So yes, just barely above mediocre. And hell, I probably gave it a bonus bar just because I got to see Raffi fed to the zombies. And any show that feeds Raffi to the zombies deserves the captain's salute. It was a long time coming. I'm like, oh man, if I cared enough about this show, I would have been really worried when I saw Raffi, but I just don't care all that much. Hey, do you want to know what Raffi thinks Or I'm sorry, what Ralphie thinks. Do you want to know what Grace Randolph thinks about The Sound of Freedom? Would you like to know? I'm going to torture you a little bit. I got something else for you too. You're going to love this. Grace Randolph. She was asked by her audience to review The Sound of Fury.
Studios doesn't really have any, but they sure have a lot of fans, enough to move the needle. The Chosen is their crown jewel, an ongoing crown
skip some of that
for Angel Studios and that show. Now, on to their biggest crowdfunders. They have some kind of think tank of the biggest contributors to their studio, which are viewers, because again, it's all crowdfunded. And they asked them, and they said, what do you guys think? Should we release this? And they were strongly encouraged by their crowdfunders to do so. But, just because someone is a supporter of your company doesn't mean they understand good business moves. And I think it was a mistake for Angel Studios to release this film.
Grace Randolph thinks it was a mistake for Angel Studios to listen to their audience and release The Sound of Freedom. It just wasn't good business, made $14 million on its opening day, its entire budget on Independence Day, and defeated Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I mean, it's already made $40 million in its first week. It's a smash success. This woman is dumb as a bag of rocks. But it gets worse.
Because Angel Studios was doing so well. So let me tell you why. So the film has been endorsed by Mel Gibson. Somebody inaccurately said it was his movie. He just backed it up. And the reason is because it stars his Jesus, Jim Caviezel, so that connection was there. And Jim Caviezel, for those of you who might not be aware, has come out in favor of several right-wing conspiracies. Let's say it that way. So many of you over the past couple of days have been like, why aren't you covering Sound of Freedom? Why isn't Sound of Freedom getting more coverage in the press overall?
Her audience is asking her, why aren't you covering The Sound of Freedom? Her audience.
And it's very conspiracy theory-like. It's not complicated. It's because of its relationship to right-wing conspiracies. That's the whole reason that it isn't getting any traction. Sound of Freedom is
$40 million in the box office. $14 million its first day. It's not getting any traction. And yet, you're spending 8 minutes talking about it.
Uncomfortably close to several right-wing conspiracies and the associated groups.
Yes, it's uncomfortably close to several right-wing conspiracy theories. Got to work on my Grace Randolph. But I will just say, watch the film, you idiot. There is nothing in the film that is a conspiracy theory. There is nothing propagandistic. There is no political messaging. It is a grounded movie. There is no crazy action sequences and a bunch of revenge fantasy stuff. There's none of that. It is a sober, true story.
And the movie has been politicized by the far right.
It has been politicized by you. Nobody is politicizing this. You wackos are. You wackos are politicizing this. This is, oh my God, these people piss me off.
Not only with accusatory statements of, this isn't why it's getting coverage because it's some kind of conspiracy theory. Just people don't want to be anywhere near that. And then also religious groups and far-right organizations have been buying up a large number of the tickets.
And they have no right to support causes they believe in. Now, isn't it interesting? Right-wing crazy sickos want to support a movie that's trying to stop children getting sold into slavery. What a bunch of wackos. What a bunch of crazies. Do you see what you're doing here, Grace? Do you see where you're landing on this? It's not a good look, my dear.
Not just to give out for free, because they care about the film, they want to spread the message, et cetera, but clearly to also bump up that box office. So that's actually not a legitimate box. I mean, it is legitimate in that amount of money was made, but it didn't sell that number of tickets. It didn't.
Yes, people buying tickets for other people to see the movie does not count as selling tickets. That's not tickets sold because someone bought them, but not for themselves. Black Panther had social media movements encouraging people to buy tickets for other people. But now that's not legitimate. That's not a legitimate strategy.
Heist that number of people to do it. It's so funny because
notice something about look at how you can always tell when people are very, you can tell when they're uncomfortable explaining something. She is absolutely carefully selecting all of her words here. You can tell how uncomfortable she is because she is working very hard to be opposed to this film. And somewhere, I suspect, in her unconscious mind, she knows that this is a lie. She knows this is gaslighting. She knows there's actually no legitimate reason, but because people she doesn't like also support this movie, she can't support it. Even if it might benefit children who are enslaved, even if it might benefit them, well, it's more important that she distance herself from right-wing crazies who want to protect children, those sickos.
Group that supports Sound of Freedom will accuse other studios of doing that, whereas they do not. They don't do that. But here, that was actually what was done. So that's not great. I mean, $40.2 million is an impressive amount of money. And that's...
But it was a bad business decision to release it, right? I have that correct?
Since it's only number 3 this weekend, but it opened on July 4th, and it did very well, particularly on that opening day.
All right, that's enough of that. Who
also
cares?
by a number of Latinos.
Yes.
Well, the success of the show, but when I think that's more of the situation. Hollywood very nervous, and in addition to making Hollywood nervous, a lot of the right-wing conspiracies vilify Hollywood itself. So of course they want nothing to do with those conspiracies.
Oh yeah, no. Why would anyone vilify Hollywood, Harvey Weinstein?
And those who put them forward because they're saying those horrible things about Hollywood directly. So how do you expect to do business with the very people that you're trying to tear down? So that's important. So
this film is not tearing down anyone in Hollywood. There's no one in Hollywood in this film. What are you talking? I mean, in the story, that's nothing to do with Hollywood in the story.
Nobody in Hollywood is going to give Sound of Freedom its flowers. And I think buying up tickets doesn't help the cause either. I mean, as I said, the exhibitors will thank you, but it's like it becomes more of a political thing than an actual legitimate movie.
Says a woman who has not seen it and refuses to watch it, even though her audience is asking her to do so.
We've seen plenty of religious and conservative content succeed without that type of tricks. They're not doing that for Yellowstone, and that's a phenomenon. Therefore, I continue to believe that we will see more and more conservative and religious content made from outside Hollywood and some coming from within. But Yellowstone is the model, not Sound of Freedom. And so I think that's an important distinction to make. Also for you to understand the landscape. Now, also, it's very important politically. This is actually the most important politically. There is a big presidential election coming up, of course, as everyone knows, and far-right groups.
This is incredible. This is how whacked out these people are. This has nothing to do with a presidential election. Sorry, hang on, my friend. I pulled up the video in another browser because I wanted that had the extension. Okay, she is ratioed on this because she has 4.6 thousand upvotes to 15,000 downvotes. She got ratioed on this video. So, her own audience not liking this. In all seriousness, it's just sick. It is sick that there isn't not one issue, not one that we can just unite as people. I want nothing to do with people this bigoted. I honestly don't. I have no use for people that are this unwilling to lay down their arms for 1 minute Nobody is trying to gloat. Nobody, look, I gloat about Sound of Freedom beating Indiana Jones 5 for only one reason. They are a corrupt mega corporation that has done awful things in China, and they love to accuse their fans of being morally depraved, racists. That's what they like to do. And they tried to bury this film, and so it is fitting that they got hoisted on their own petard because they made a shit movie, tried to lie about it, and blamed that on the fans. So yes, they deserve to be roasted. But in terms of individuals watching this film, commenting on it, nobody is trying to gloat. Nobody is trying to crow. What we are trying to do is say, hey, could we get the word out about one issue? And could we just this once, as people, see this film and just talk about the film? The subject in the film. Why are these people so uncomfortable talking about this subject? Isn't that interesting? And to them, this is a partisan issue. Well, if that is the case, if it is necessary that we be defined by where we stand on this partisan issue, well, I know where I stand. You have chosen your side, Grace. There shouldn't be sides on this issue, but you have made it a side, and then this is how the gaslighting works. We're the ones politicizing it. We are. We're politicizing. We just wanted the film to be released. We wanted people to see the film. That's it. You're the one bringing up the freaking graphic with the presidential election. She's refusing to see this film. All right, that's enough of Grace Randolph. Now, one more video for you, if you'll indulge me for a minute. I'm no big fan of Jesse Waters, but this is a good clip.
On July 4th, the #1 movie in America wasn't Indiana Jones. Disney spent $300 million resurrecting Harrison Ford and releasing the summer blockbuster. But there's another movie dominating the box office. It's called The Sound of Freedom, and it beat Indiana Jones on opening day. The film's based off the true story of Tim Ballard, a former Homeland Security special agent who saved kids from an international sex trafficking ring.
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen.
We're Homeland Security. We can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia.
This job tears you to pieces. And this is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
So you quit your job and you go and rescue those kids.
This movie zeroes in on the multi-billion-dollar human trafficking industry and honors a hero, someone who saved children from sex slavery. But to the media, this person isn't a hero. Someone who rescues kids from pedophiles is a villain.
These films are...
Yeah. This guy makes me want to throw up in my mouth. Like, absolutely. It was one thing when there were headlines. It was one thing when Variety just had to have their ridiculous takes on this. It's like, but no, there is a creep, a freaking creep who's got to run to CNN and say this shit.
Created out of moral panics. They're created out of bogus statistics. They're created out of fear. And with something like Sound of Freedom, it specifically is looking at QAnon concepts of these child trafficking rings that are run by the high-level elites.
For some reason, the entire media is smearing this movie as a dangerous conspiracy theory. The press is saying that the star, Jim Caviezel, is a QAnon guy. And Jim plays Tim Ballard, which is strange because just a few years ago, the same media was celebrating Tim Ballard's heroics. Watch.
Tim Ballard has one mission: to track down child traffickers. 4 months ago.
This is a CBS report from 2014. By the way, this is what the movie depicts. This was real, what happens in this movie.
Colombian authorities asked him to investigate a tip that children were being sold there as sex slaves.
Within a half hour, this individual walks up to me, starts asking me what I'm here for, what I want, and within minutes, he says, well, I've got kids as young as 11 years old.
So why is the media warning people not to see a movie about child sex trafficking that's based on a true story? Well, the Spear Fund founder Tim Ballard joins me now. So, Tim, why is the media hating this movie?
You know, I can't understand it. The film was made, produced, written like 5 years, 6 years ago, way before anyone heard the name QAnon. I still don't even know what QAnon is. In the meantime, they're trying to connect it to some conspiracy when, in fact, like you said, this is a true story. These are real kids. I mean, these kids are my friends. They're young adults now, the ones that were rescued. They're going to come out soon and tell their story. It's going to be very awkward when the mainstream media comes after these kids next and accuses them of being part of some conspiracy when, in fact, they were rescued from a life of rape.
And, you know, I would love to believe that that won't happen, but you know it's going to happen. As the sun rises and sets, if there is a film about a man trying to save children from child trafficking, the wokies, the woke, will be pissed about it. What does that tell you about their worldview? It is the woke mind virus is a plague. It is an evil mental insanity, and it cannot be tolerated in our society anymore.
It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in the media, perhaps.
I mean, this publication says The Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with brainworms, and that it fetishizes the torture of its child victims. Is that what the movie does?
It absolutely does not do that. It tells a story based in truth. And, you know, what I think is happening, Jesse, I think that the left and these media outlets, they don't want to have a discussion that this film is going to compel. A discussion about why 85,000 children showed up unaccompanied at the border and got released into the interior of a country that is the highest consuming country for child exploitation material on the planet. They don't want to talk about why these same publications are pushing an agenda to change the word pedophile to minor attracted persons in order to normalize sexual activity with children. I think that's what they're trying to avoid, and they know this film's going to shine a light on all of the things, all the atrocities happening to children, and so they have to discredit it by lying about it.
So what would their motivation be to describe?
I would say it's also partly just tribalism. It's just whatever the orange man supporting people don't like, we don't like. That is absolute insanity.
Discredit a movie that's trying to shine a spotlight onto atrocities committed against children.
Well, if the truth of human trafficking and child exploitation were to be brought to bear, brought to light, then they would have to have a debate, a discussion that they don't want to have about, again, these policies around sexualizing children or allowing children to consent at a young age to do anything and everything, which would eventually include being, identifying as an adult perhaps and having sex with pedophiles. I hunt pedophiles. I've been hunting them for 20 years, and they are watching this and they're salivating. They are happy that Rolling Stones and The Guardian are ripping on a movie that exposes them. So I don't like the fact that these media outlets are, in fact, wittingly or unwittingly, running interference for human traffickers and pedophiles.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen
So there you have it. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we've been driven to this place. But that makes me think of something interesting that Tom Holland had to say about Hollywood. It's like, now, why is it? Why is it that the leftists, the wokies, the shill access media, Hollywood, why are they so desperate to malign this movie? Why was Disney so desperate to shelve it? Well, maybe Tom Holland could shed some light for us, because he had this to say.
I really do not like Hollywood. It is not for me. The business really scares me. I understand that I'm a part of that business and I enjoy my kind of interactions with it. But that said, I am always looking for ways to kind of remove myself from it, to kind of just live as normal a life as possible. Today, doing this is a very rare thing for me to do. Yeah, I definitely think it has been an ongoing thought, which is don't lose yourself. I've seen so many people come before me and lose themselves, and I've had friends that I've grown up with that aren't friends of mine anymore because they've lost themselves to this business. And I just am really, really keen to focus on what makes me happy, which is my family, it's my friends, it's my carpentry, my golf, the charity that my mum runs. Like, that is the stuff that makes me really happy, and that's the stuff that I should protect. My relationship is the thing that I keep most sacred. I don't talk about it. I try my best to keep it as private as possible. We both feel very strongly that that is the healthiest way for us to move on as a couple. So I do try to keep as removed from it as possible. Like, you'll never see me at an award show that I don't have to be at. I'm never going to a red carpet event that I'm not in the film of, you know? I don't want the attention when I don't need it.
Yeah, so there you have it. Class act is Tom Holland, and he's very wise. He is wise beyond his years, because, you know, it is Hollywood is a cesspool. It is a cesspool. And it's why they have such a difficult time writing heroes. It's why they can't write heroic characters anymore. Because look at how they react to a film like Sound of Freedom. They can't even understand how ludicrous they are. They can't even understand the way they sound to normal people hearing what they're saying. And to her great credit, I have no idea what her politics are, but the artist Jewel had this to say, and well, I don't care what her politics are. She is a class act, because listen to this.
F.
Hang on. Let me get back to the beginning here. I messed it up. I may have to reload. Reload page. Silverback says, the way you describe Fear the Walking Dead with vignettes and giving you whiplash sounds like how I would describe Lost. Yes, if anyone remembers Lost, it was exactly like that. Fear the Walking Dead's much less interesting than Lost, though. That is for sure.
Freedom. You have to see it. I'm so verklempt. You guys, I just saw The Sound of Freedom. You have to see it. I'm so verklempt. Some friends of mine made this movie, and it's been years of it being in production. It's the most inspiring film. Did you know that there are millions of children in slavery? This is the fastest growing criminal enterprise. And the amount of children enslaved right now is greater than all 300 years of the transatlantic slave trade. What the actual F? This is a true story about a man who just doesn't give up on a child. It is so touching. You're gonna love it. Please go see it. This is the little indie movie that could. It's competing with all of the giant blockbusters, and it's kicking butt, and it deserves it. Go see this to have your heart filled. Love you guys. Take care of your babies. You guys, I just saw.
And in her tweet, she says, you know, it saddens me that some media is trying to politicize this movie. This is not left or right. It's about millions of kids being trafficked, and no matter what your faith or creed, we need to protect all the vulnerable kids rather than fight over philosophical differences. Amen. And that is a reminder to me that, you know, the media will media. They'll be what they are. But most of us are sane enough to know that this is not a political issue. And you know, if this were a propaganda film, your captain would tell you. Because, as I've said many times, I don't care if it's left, right, or center. If it's propaganda storytelling, it's bad storytelling. And there was definitely a part of me that was like, oh, you know, I don't know if this turns out to be some, you know, crazy movie. I'm going to have to, you know, give it my honest critique. And I thought, I think it's going to be good. And it was brilliant. It was a brilliant film. It was incredibly well made. It was very honest and authentic. There was nothing in this film that was over the top. There was nothing distasteful. I mean, obviously, it's incredibly hard to watch, but the way it was done, you know, I didn't get the sense that anyone was being exploited in the making of the film, which is incredibly important, especially, you know, given the purpose of the film. So it's just a movie. Like, you watch it, it's just a story, and it's being told in a pretty effective way. So they're wrong and they're losing this argument in the public square. They're losing this argument. That is what our support of good films represents, just beyond just this film. Insidious, The Red Door, another indie film, became #1 in the box office. And actually, I do believe Sound of Freedom even beat Insidious, The Round Door just recently. The round door. No, Frodo's door. Let me see if I can find the headline for you. But in any case, yeah, this from Deadline, Jim Caviezel thriller, Sound of Freedom knocks Insidious, The Red Door from the #1 spot on the box office. So you realize what this means, right? This means that an independent horror film and an independent true story both beat Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, if that's not some good news to leave you with, I don't know what else is. But Sound of Freedom even beat Insidious, The Red Door. And you just know that if it hadn't, the media would have been so happy. They would have been so happy if Sound of Freedom just petered out, didn't really do anything. They would have loved that. Which is sick in and of itself. But in any case, there you go. And when those things happen, when we show with our dollars, what we really care about and what our values are, it's like I said before, Mission Impossible, one of the best parts about it is that Ethan Hunt isn't just a great spy, he's a hero. He sacrifices himself. He does everything in his power to save civilians. He cares about the mission because he wants to save the world. He wants to save people's lives. He has opportunities to be ruthless, and he passes them up because he thinks there's a better way. He cares about the lives of his team. He has morals and ethics. And the more we support films like that, the more that these lies and these attempts at gaslighting fail. They fail. And honestly, if they're complaining this much about it in the media, it means they're losing. Because if this film weren't doing anything, they'd be happy to ignore it. Nothing would make them happier than to simply ignore it. But they can't. They can't ignore it. And why can't they ignore it? Because of you. My dear sailors and star nuts, you are the reason. You of the fellowship, you the good, honest people of the world, you are the reason that they cannot ignore Sound of Freedom. They cannot ignore Insidious. And Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning is showing the summer blockbuster business how it is done. So go support this film. I'm going to see it 2 or 3 more times. It's excellent. It's about saving the world and having fun while you're doing it. So we are winning. So yes, CNN, you go out there. Bob Iger, you give us all the excuses. You keep making these failures, and we'll just keep not seeing them. And we, the independent creators of the world, we will build new things. And we will not be dissuaded. We will not be daunted. We will have good things again. So that is all I have to say. Well, my dear sailors and star nuts, we have had great time tonight. Silverback notes that he's not familiar with Jules' politics either, but she grew up in bumfuck Alaska in a house with no running water. She is a very down-to-earth person. That is a very good point, sir. Well, I do thank you for spending a Sunday. I'm used to the Sunday stream. I do thank you for spending a Thursday evening with your captain. I am Captain Garrett of the Captain's Cast on Swords and Starships Channel. Please do like and subscribe. And we are on Twitter, Rumble, and Locals. And we are working on Iron Age projects. So www.galaxyborn.com, linked in the description. Check it out. I am working on a new science fiction adventure, and the first episode of that will be dropping soon. So check it out. If nothing else, put in your email for updates. Stay tuned to this channel. There will be more on it soon. And take heart, my dear sailors and Starnuts, for they cannot, the truth, in the words of Eckhart Tolle, requires no defense at the end of the day because it is the truth. It will lie in wait for all time. And so, I say to you, my dear sailors and Starnuts, until next time, this is Captain Garrett saying, I will see you out there.